Hello, I'm Sean McAngus, and welcome back to the Highland League podcast. This is episode 21 of season 3 of the Highland League podcast. Today's guest is former Nairn County player John Sim. In this episode, he talks about the race for his signature as a youngster, success with Nairn County, cup shock over Forfar, praise from Jock Wallace, the footballing success of his grandfather Andy Mitchell and his uncle Andy Mitchell, and much more. Hope you enjoy this interview. How did you get into football, as a youngster? What was kind of...
Well, I stayed just outside Culloden. It's just outside Inverness, rather.
Yeah.
And my dad played football. He played for the Welfare League team, Culloden FC. And at that time, they played in the league was based in Inverness, but they had a football pitch on the farm that they played there, and the people had to come out in Inverness to play at Culloden. And that was my first introduction to competitive football. That's where it started. But it was mainly people who worked in farms, just the local people, and the club was made up of that. So in our situation, we're always outside, we're always playing, and the farm we stayed on had several families. So it was everyone was playing football, or they played they played cricket if that was on, or rounders or anything that do. So the adults and everyone played. So I followed that, and my mum's side, obviously Andrew Mitchell was a very good player for Cali. On that side, it was very much football as well. The thing about it being it because we were staying in the country, so we didn't go into the town, so you couldn't really follow the football as such at that time. Obviously, there's nothing on telly or no follow.
Yeah.
You could follow a little on paper, but so although my uncle and my grandfather had played in the league, I hadn't really seen my uncle play very much. He was sort of the end of his career as the time I came in, but there was always football around, so we played a lot. And the pitch I always remember the pitch at Culloden.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was a farm, so the cows were on it. It was a dairy farm. So before, I always remember having to go along and we had to line the pit. We had to go down to the sawmill to get sawdust to put the lines up. And you also had to clear the cows off the pitch. So all was quite an interesting thing for the people coming out of Inverness to play. But because I'm not sure why my mum was taking in football, but why that, I think it was because my uncle had played, and his mum, my grandmother, was dead keen on it as well. So it came right through. So it was sort of automatic, I suppose, to play. So I started off playing, I went to the academy in Inverness. I played just started playing for the school teams. And it came off. When I went in initially, I'm not sure what happened. I started playing rugby initially, but because the person to get into Inverness at the weekend, you had to travel in. So I went into with a friend who was older, and he was playing rugby, so I played rugby. But eventually got into the football side. So I played. That's where I started off, and that's when. I think the school organisation football was very good at that time, and that sort of really got me into it as a part of a regular type of football.
Yeah. So, I noticed you were kind of playing, you got called up to kind of the north of Scotland kind of setup, which still is kind of in place.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what was that like?
Well, the thing about it, we had a teacher at academy, Eddie Hutchin, who really was dead keen on football. He seemed very old at that time, but because you're a pupil, then a teacher, but he probably had just started teaching, and he was really dead keen on football. So he was the one who I played when his team throughout school. And when it came, I think it was second year, it was the first time that the organised football came in terms of representing the area.
Yeah.
Because I remember playing when I was second year. We must have gone down, I think somebody like Glen Rothes to play. That we played, I can remember one or two of the people who played in that. But it was like football, people who start off playing don't necessarily follow it through. Some people who are good when they were younger, sort of lose it as other people grow bigger than them.
Yeah.
So that was the first time that came in. It was picked by an area, and it was mainly, I would say, the people around Elgin were the selectors. So to a certain extent, Inverness although it was the north of Scotland, it was Inverness to Elgin, I think, were picking the teams. And as a result, some people didn't get into the team that you think, when you played them round about, say, how come they're not being involved?
Yeah.
Because I don't know, Eric Wilson?
Yeah.
He played at Keith, and I played against him a couple of occasions. He was very strong, but he never really got picked for him. He's thinking, when I'm seeing some of the centre halves that played in the North Scotland teams I played in, I'm thinking, there must be missing something here. But it just depends on who watched you, who picked you, and a lot of the people were picked around, I suppose, Inverness and Elgin, Forest, that sort of area. So we played. It was part of this system of picking the Scottish team.
Yeah.
The north of Scotland would play usually Aberdeen area. Then a team we picked out for two, and then you go and play two teams from maybe Dundee and the central area.
Yeah.
And then you get up and that. And the first little while, I didn't expect. We played just the first two rounds, didn't really get very far.
Yeah.
But as it went on, I played for the senior team when I was fourth year, and fifth year rather. I had gone into trials on the fourth year as a late substitute, and but there was a rule that they picked the pool, and people who are late substitutes couldn't get picked for the next game. So I always felt sorry for that, because when we played in the game, it was Inverness, I remember it, and I was playing left half, and I were inside right. I was playing against him, and he just didn't have a great game. And I was playing against him. I felt sorry he didn't get moved on. He should have moved on, but it didn't work out that way. But the trouble was, the system was that once you got a joint team picked from North Scotland and Aberdeen, obviously they were known to the people who were picking it. But when you went on to the next level, it was people from South who were picking it.
Nice.
So I mean, it was very difficult to progress right through. George Stapleton, I don't know if you know that name, he played for Nairn that I did, and he played for Scotland from Inverness Academy, but he was one of the very few in our area who actually ever got through to play for the Scotland team. I got through, we played at the first round we played when I was on sixth year. We must have played the East, I think. We played them at we did get a game. I remember it was at St Johnstone's Park. We played them there, and we were playing the sort of middle of the country, and we beat them sort of 5-0 or something. So a lot of our team went on from that, and for that the last one was in Glasgow. But part of the problem was with that stage they all were playing the old fashion style with two full-backs, left half, right half, centre half, inside forwards. And when they played the North District area, if you like, they didn't have anyone inside forward who was left-footed. So they played somebody who was right-footed. But when it came to the final trial, all he did was spend side on the right-hand side. So it made the trial very unfair in a certain way. But because that was all they had to go on, the team was picked on that. And it's always a bit of a problem with selection, I suppose. People pick who they know.
Yeah.
So I played for fifth year and sixth year, I played for the North Scotland. And it was following that for a little while, they had on a couple of occasions, they had our team, which is the senior North Scotland boys, played the under-21s from the Highland League.
Yeah.
And that was the time that it sort of started to become noticeable because there was people watching, and that's when people like Highland League clubs started to pick you up, because otherwise, I don't know how they pick players up, I suppose. Just by watching Highland Welfare League and stuff, I suppose.
Yeah, so in terms of, did that help you in terms of physicality, because you were against Highland League players that is a bit more kind of physical rather than against your same age group?
Well,
slightly?
I think that was when I went to Nairn. It was from school, and I was 19, and they were always a bit worried about the physicality, because I was playing midfield at that stage when I went to them.
Yeah.
But it wasn't really an issue, because when I was 15, I actually started playing in the Welfare League against the adults.
Nice.
And the football level, that was pretty good. And I remember a couple of injuries I got. I'm looking around at a ref and wondering why he hadn't called a foul, but it was always amateur refs, or sometimes it was a ref from the other team. So the physical side of that didn't really, I find it wasn't really much of an issue as far as of going from say school level up to the Highland League. I suppose for any young player getting that is it's just getting experience and finding your feet, seeing older, more experienced players knew how to play, you were finding your feet, I suppose. So I enjoyed the time at in the Welfare League as well. Because I was young, when I played, it always kept me out of the way. So I was left. It's when I started playing left wing, because I was shoved down the left hand side, thinking I'd be safer there. And so for about 3 years, that's where I played. And when I played for the school, I was playing midfield, left half, really. And that was only because of my age that I was doing it as when it came to the adult stuff. But I think that's what caused a slight problem for me when I went into football in the Highland League, because I could play either left wing, midfield. I ended up playing left back and sweeper. I could play mostly on that side. It's a plus and it's a minus, because you would tend to get moved around a lot. You're just getting the sort of understanding to play on one position, and you were suddenly moved into another and played there for a while. You'd just gradually get that. So I played various positions, and as I go on, I didn't really find the transition from school upwards, maybe because I played a lot with adults in the Welfare League.
Yeah, so in terms of, you had an opportunity to go and trial at Ross County and then St Johnstone. How was that an experience?
Well, it came up a different way. The Ross County, the St Johnstone one, came as a result of these inter-area matches. Yeah. We played down at St Johnstone, and the scout asked me to come. They wanted me to go down at Christmas time to have a trial period. Yeah. Obviously not out of school holidays, but I was doing hires at the time, so that was just before the prelims. So I couldn't really afford the time to do that, so I didn't do that, and that obviously just dropped out of the scene as a way. But it was Willie Ormond who was the manager of St Johnstone at that time, the Scottish manager. But that was the reason. That's how that issue dropped out, because when I was younger, my dad died when I was just in second year. Yeah. So I was, my mum had a lot of effort bringing me up, and it was financially a bit iffy at times for that. So when I left, I was quite keen, and my focus was on getting work. And at that stage, there wasn't a range of probably possibilities to develop your football so easily. Because here you can get access to obviously junior to football to junior to Highland League, and then you've got obviously the the clubs are playing in the Scottish
yeah.
leagues now. So there's a whole range now that you didn't have then. So you're taking a bit of risk to go. I felt that time to put too much into football if an injury away could put you out. So from that point of view, I just kept on with the education side, and the St Johnstone one dropped out for that reason probably. The thing about Ross County when that game with the under 21s came, I think it was under 21s or under 23s, whatever. I don't think they have it now. I don't know if you've heard it. I don't think they have that system. They only ran for a couple of years, but that was the one that, because it was under 21s and younger player, I think a lot of people went along to see it. It was a midweek game, so obviously everyone's going to see it. So that's where this thing came up, and the I think it was Ian McNeil was his name, the manager at Ross County. Their approach was very organised. He came up, he visited my mum, and we sat down and talked about it.
Yeah.
The one that I had been to Cali to play a couple of games for them, and like for friendly games.
Yeah.
But they were a little bit more disorganised. I felt really. It wasn't a sort of very organised approach to me. I did play, but there's no one sat down and said, "What do you think? Where do you want to go? Do you want to think?" There's none of discussion there.
Yeah.
So I didn't do that. Then I went. But when it came to Nairn, I had to Nairn play. Obviously, there's quite a few people from Inverness. So when I went through to Nairn, through for a couple of training nights, it was people like George Stapleton, Kenny, Mackenzie, the goalkeeper, Alec Young, all very friendly people. So I went with them for the training, and I quite liked it. So that was one of the reasons that's how I went to Nairn rather than to any of the others. There weren't really any other people come up at that stage that I recall that were, Clach didn't come into the scene or Inverness Thistle or anything like that. But there was a lot of talk because of this game, give a sort of opening for everyone to show what they could do, I suppose. And that's when the clubs come into it. So the other thing was, just your wife, she's was a great football fan, and she followed Nairn. So that was another reason I ended up at Nairn. And her dad obviously had played a little bit for Nairn, and so that's how it worked there. It was a bit of it wasn't as well organised development, but it worked well because I liked the team. I liked the setup there. So I ended up playing there straight from school.
Yeah, so was it weird, because I was looking at the clippings that Christine sent me, was it weird seeing your name in the paper, when you were a bit odd?
Well, it was. I mean, particularly the reaction to the game against the first game that we had against the under-21s. I played, and it was, I remember it was Steve Lottie, the Elgin goalkeeper at the time. So I scored a goal. It came to me. I just tagged him with him, and then when that game came up, there was one boy from the north, Ken McCain, who played in Aberdeen. He got selected for the Scottish team. So when I'd been captain of the North of Scotland and all that before that, so when the team came up. It was Innes MacDonald, who do you know that name?
Yeah, I reckon. Yeah.
He was the manager at Elgin. He picked the team, and he thought as an honour Ken would be captain, which was fair enough because but midway into the second half we got a penalty. So Ken had one look down. He says, "Well, I'm not taking it." He says, "Will you take it?" So I ended up taking it. So I actually scored. I scored a couple of goals in the night, which I probably created. It was the start of giving somebody a headline.
Yeah.
But when you see it, I'm thinking, where I watching the same game as they reported in the paper, because sometimes when you're playing, you don't really realise how well or poorly you're playing. Sometimes when you come off and read the report, sometimes it seems it's not quite how it appeared. Especially, well, at least at that time, the people were watching the game. But it can be difficult to get an impression. So sometimes a bit of surprise when people say, "Oh, you do well that," and or you get criticism for something. I can't remember doing that to them. But when it was in the paper, then it's okay. But as far as I remember, we did have one other game following that, a replay, because it was close. It was actually, I think the first game was maybe something like 4-2, but the under 21s were far better than that. We were lucky to get that close. And when it came to the second game, it was actually on a rock hard frosty pitch in Clark, and I don't think anyone was really wanting to play that night, but it was played. But there wasn't so much reporting after that. I think the reporting done by that time was often by ex-referee Frank Phillips, I think, did sometimes reporting for the Scottish papers and for the local papers. But I suppose you didn't really think. I was just happy to play football. I like to play football. What came, I suppose.
Yeah, so in terms of your time at Nairn, what would you say were kind of the highlights playing there? You were there.
Well, I say in the 4 years I was there for a short time initially. I did come back later for a year, but when I played the time I remember most, the thing was Nairn were a pretty good cup team. They could put performances together, but they were never really, when I played there, in much chance of the league. They were sort of mid-table to maybe upper bitty. Yeah. But and I was there for 4 years, and I think I was in 4 cup finals, or one I couldn't get to because I pulled a muscle in the semi, but 4 or 5 finals I think we made in that time, which is a pretty good average. Yeah. And the big thing was the qualifying cup, I think, as you said, other people mentioned, because next to the league, that was the thing. Yeah. And as I said, I had when I played football, I also watched a little bit of Elgin City, because they were at a time a very strong team. Yeah. And actually, they got right through to the quarterfinals and played Celtic at Celtic Park. And I watched them. My brother-in-law Gordon, he was dead keen. He supported Elgin, and we went along to watch the match when they played. It must have been in the quarterfinal, I think. Maybe it was Ayr at Elgin, and they beat them 2-1 or 3-2. So, having followed the Elgin, the qualifying cup was always a very big thing, not as a spectator. So when it came to play it, that was obviously one of the things that everyone was keen to see, keen to get involved in. But I think what it was, this happened, we won the qualifying cup in the first year I played. Yeah. And I didn't quite appreciate when playing how big it was, because we ended up, as it turned out, in the semi-finals. We played Elgin City at Nairn. And the opposition was Fraserburgh, were playing Ross County in Dingwall. And so the thing was, everyone's going Ross County, Elgin. So we actually managed to beat Elgin on that day 4-2. And I ended up playing against, when I used to watch Elgin, there was a centre right back, Jim Gerrard. I don't know if you probably don't know that name, but he was a very physical, big. You don't these blokes who were in the gym. So I managed to play against him. So we managed to win 4-2, but playing in the qualifying cup against the team we'd be supporting, it was quite interesting. I was quite happy to beat them in that round. So we went on to play Fraserburgh in the final, and that was always home and away. So when we got to Fraserburgh, the pitch in Fraserburgh was very narrow. Aye. And so I was on the left wing, there was Jock Wallace was on the right wing, and we were just stuck there, because if you came off the wing, there was no room to play. So I think we managed to beat them there 3-1. And in the return game, when we came back to Nairn, I always remember I was playing left wing, and we were about, you're a bit nervy. Yeah. So after about 25 minutes, the first half, Fraserburgh went 1-0. So I think this is a bit tricky. So, and I remember just about 10 minutes later, the ball, we had a corner, the ball broke out, and I was just watching the move. I could see it happening from behind. And this the centre forward was running through, and he hit the shot, and when he hit it, it looks like it was going to the bottom corner, but it bent. So Kenny McKenzie was the goalkeeper. He dived virtually to where the ball was going, but it hit his feet, the point of his feet, and knocked it out. So I'm thinking that goal goes in, we're in trouble. But after that was over, I think Jockey Wilson managed to get a goal for us. So that was us 2-up with about maybe 20 minutes to go. So after that it was okay. But winning that one was important because the people who were like the ones who were playing, who had been playing for a long time and maybe ended their careers, it was obviously meant a lot to them.
Yeah.
So you could get it from them. But when you're doing it for the first time yourself, you don't maybe realise how big a thing it is. But the winning the cup itself and playing the Scottish Cup itself against various teams was obviously a major part of the time I was there.
Yeah. So one of the ties was you beat Forfar. What was that like? Because obviously Forfar were higher up.
Forfar were there was a first league and then Division 1. And when we played them, Forfar were leading Division 1, leading promotion against what would now be the Premier.
Yeah.
So when we went down, I think, no, well. But we played okay, and there was a play for us, Abby Stephen. Was it Abby Stephen, Chris?
Yeah.
Abby Stephen. And he hit a fantastic goal. I mean, it was one in these. He hit left foot, so he was right-footed. He hit it right in the top corner. So it was even or so up about half time. And then I remember the goalkeeper kicked this ball out. I'm watching it. And the centre half went up and he missed it. So it comes to me. So I didn't touch it. And he just ran on. And I go through, and somebody else came up, I think maybe right back, and he missed it. So I'm running through, the ball's still there, and the keeper came out, and he missed it. So I'm walking up, and I just completely into the net. And Hughie Tom, who's one of the players, he shoved me out the way and scored. But it was just the way it happened. It was really sort of slow motion. And you're watching it happen and saying, he missed it. And I'm thinking, well, he's missed it. And then he's missed it. So we managed to win 2-1 there. And I remember when we come up to play our next game at Nairn, I can't remember what the team were, but they clapped us onto the pitch because of that result. So that was a good one. At a later time, we got to the stage, we got to the qualifying cup again about 2 years later.
Oh, yeah.
And what we think, it says here, that's the winner. So I think it was 2 years later we got, and that 70-71.
Yeah,
and we actually played Elgin again, but it was in the final this time. We beat them 1-0 at Nairn, and then we went to Elgin, and we went. It was all even just before half time. We got a penalty. But by that time, I wasn't the penalty taker. There's a player called Robbie Smart. I don't know if you know that name at all. You won't know. He was a very good player. He actually played in the north of Scotland. He was a year younger than me, as far as I remember. He was centre half, and he took it. Unfortunately, he missed it. So instead of going 2-0 up, we ended up 1-0, and then they equalised. So at that stage there, it was a playoff. It's sort of you had to toss for who's going to get home ground. So Elgin actually got home ground, and in the replay we got beaten like 6-1 or something. But so our chance was at that stage. But there's a little story about these ones. I've got this medal. This one is the winner, and that's the runner-up. And we were in here. We were getting the cladding. Around, done, and the joiner was there. So we got talking to him, asked what his name was, the same as his name was Tom. I think it wasn't Louis Tom, because that was Hugh's brother. But he's a well-known golfer, and we got talking, and his dad was, I found out, was a Hughie Tom, who, when we won the first one, played for us. And then when we had in the replay, he had transferred to Elgin. So in the replay, he's got the both winners.
Yeah.
So I asked the bloke here where his dad was now, and he was in Australia. So I got him to take these two medals, and he sent the photograph to his dad to show him, see if he had the same two medals available. But that was Hugh Tom. He was a good player. He moved to Elgin shortly after that.
Yeah. So did you ever have a chance to move elsewhere, or clubs interested in you, or were you quite settled in?
I was quite happy with Nairn. I don't think I'd moved from there. In the 4 years I was there was plenty happening. We were doing okay. I liked the club. The only things that were coming up were there was some interest at times from other, out with the league. Around about the time we played the second year or third year qualifying cup, we played Berwick Rangers at home. And I'm trying to think, when we played Forfar and beat them, I think the next one must have been against Brechin away. But I got flu on the day that game. I didn't play on that day. I think we got beaten 2-1 there. The next time we played was Berwick Rangers, and at that time it was their goalkeeper was Jock Wallace, who went out to manage Rangers.
Yeah.
That day, he had a tremendous game. That person I talked about earlier, Abby Stephen.
Yeah.
He early in the early part of the first half. We were putting under a bit of pressure. And I remember I got the ball put into Abbey and hit a shot, and it was maybe on the corner 18-yard box. And when Wallace went to get it, he'd actually sort of semi-dived past it, but he managed to get his elbow down, knocked it down, hit the ground right over the bar. And I think if that goal had gone in, then we'd have been okay. But then they scored, and once they'd scored, they sort of went in defence. So we probably overextend ourselves a bit trying to get an equaliser.
Yeah.
But that was a pretty good game, and we played all right. But Wallace had a couple of good saves that kept him in it at a time when it would have been good for us to go ahead.
Yeah, and he's such a well-known kind of name in Scottish football in general now.
Yeah. He was the one who wanted me. I think at that time he was at Hearts, and he wanted me to. Their Hearts were quite interested, and they wanted me to go down to play there to get on trial. Yeah. But Nairn didn't want to go. That said, no, if you've got to do it, they wanted to put in an offer in other words.
Yeah. So
that fell through again. So that didn't happen. The thing about it was I was at university, and that was one of the good things about the setting it and the Highland League setting. There was a train that left Aberdeen, maybe say about 11:30 on Saturday morning, and it meant there were a lot of the players in the Highland League were ex-senior players maybe, and a lot of them were Aberdeen. So you used to go on the train Aberdeen, you got dropped off all the way through, like Huntly, Forest, Huntly, Keith, Elgin, Forest, Nairn, Inverness. Of course, at the end of the day, they'll go back on again. So there was a great atmosphere at the end, especially as the people enjoyed themselves. So a lot of people, whatever bonuses they got earning during the day, they tended to lose them on the way back playing cards on the train. But that was the atmosphere that made it, probably kept me, quite happy when I was. I didn't really need to move on to do anything else. When I started playing with Nairn, I was on a semi-professional contract.
Yeah.
This meant you were just paid for playing.
Yeah.
But when I started to play well, they offered me a full-time professional contract.
Yeah.
And this is where the problems maybe slightly developed for my career, because because my dad died, no one really advised me on these things. And my uncle, Andrew, who had played for Cali, who probably could have advised me, he unfortunately died as well. So I didn't really anyone guide me. And probably at that stage, if I'd had that, like an agent now, I said, look, what do you think of this? Then he probably would have said, well, maybe it's not the best thing to go full-time professional. Because if you did that, at the end of the year, the club could hold on to you, retain you for a following year. Whereas if you're semi-professional, that was you at the end of the year, you could just go and you could go wherever you like.
Yeah.
So when I stopped at Nairn, I had 4 years when I was at university, and then we were moving down to Paisley for work, basically, and I wanted to do teacher training.
Yeah.
And I went down to Paisley. At that stage, I was still on a full-time contract, if you like. So I spoke to Nairn, and they wanted to hold on to me. Because the option was just, well, if they had to hold on, obviously they have to pay a signing on fee and things. But they wanted to hold on to me. So I went down to Paisley, and I did play a couple of times for the St Mirren reserves. So, and in fact, my main claim to fame is I once changed in the England dressing room at Hampden. Because one of the games they played that I played for St Mirren was against Queen's Park, Queen's Park game reserves, I think it was. So here's me changing, but I was I was left back, so I'm not sure who the left back for England was. Maybe Terry Cooper or something. But it was me there. We didn't play in Hampden. We played in Lesser Hampden. But we changed the place.
Still counts.
Yeah, still counts. So when I played there, that game, the difficulty was that the training, we quite liked to be north, basically. When we had the chance, we moved up north. And when I was down in Paisley, all the training was over the summertime. And because I was a teacher, and I had long summer holidays, so I couldn't really maintain the fitness. So until I sort of dropped out of football for a long time. I played sort of friendly games, and I played for. There was a List D school, which is a school for kids who've got disabilities, and they had a team because part of my training when I was later was carried out in that school. But we had some fantastic games down there playing for them. As a result, I just sort of drifted out to football from a professional side and just try to pick up games when I could.
So in terms, explain a bit. You said you were full-time contract. Was that were you paid like weekly, or what? How did that structure in terms
if you went to full-time, you were paid whether you played or not. You're obviously bonuses. There's bonuses for points, so much for a win and so much for a draw.
So do you remember any of the bonuses that you used to get, or?
Well, there was I can't really remember the bonus. So there would have been a bonus for the game at like getting into Scottish Cup. Bigger bonuses for them. The size of them I can't really remember. They wouldn't have been great amounts. I don't know. I'm not really sure. 20, 30 quid or something. But that's fine. But at that time, when I was looking back at some of the crowds they were playing in front of, so some of the crowds would be 3,000-4,000. So it's quite a lot of people there, and I didn't feel how important they were. Now I look back and say, well, there must be more to that than it seemed at the time. But so I suppose it's a way how that I don't know how the system works. I don't suppose it'll be too much different now. If the club invest in a full-time contract, then they want to have, it's fair enough and have a year after. Some sort of control at the end of that season. But probably from my point of view, it'd been easier for me just to stay semi-professional, then I had more choice at the end.
So in terms of what made you in terms of return back to Nairn and get back into football for that?
Well, the problem, when I played, I said I missed out in the cup final because I pulled the muscle. I had quite a bit of trouble for a while with the pulling hamstrings and things. And when I was playing football only, friendly games and things, because you weren't training properly, that was always an issue. I tended not, to have more and more of them. And so when I come up to retired when I was about 28 or something, I think, moved to Banff. And because my parents were still in Nairn, we were through Nairn a lot. So that was why when I decided maybe to try and back training, I just went to Nairn.
Yeah.
And that was Innes MacDonald, who was the manager by that time. And he obviously knew me from a time when, the school football.
Yeah.
And so I joined, I took it up then. And I played, when I came back, I was unfortunate. I never really got 100% fit. That I wouldn't get a full, I could go for 2 weeks and something would happen.
Yeah.
But I played for at various positions, but in the end, I ended up playing sweeper. And we played the second season. The first season I come back, there was a tournament, five-a-side tournament at Aviemore. I don't know if you know of that one.
No.
It was a five-side tournament, and it was made up of like 5 Premiership teams now, if you like. It was Hibs and Rangers and Celtic.
Yeah.
I don't think Celtic. Hibs, Rangers, Heart. There was about 5 teams from the Premiership.
Oh, yeah. I know. I think I know what you're meaning now.
And then there was about 13 teams for the Highland League, and you had to be in the top 13 to get in. So I remember when we went back, obviously as I got older, I tended to move back a little. So I played sweeper, and we ended up going in a good run. I got in about 30th place. So we ended up, so I played there for that year. Then when I came back the following year, pre-season training, we had a game against Aberdeen, pre-season play.
Yeah.
So play like Joey Harper and the blokey, there was a left winger, can't remember his name there, who was good, but I think in that game we got beaten quite easily, obviously.
Yeah.
But somehow after that, I didn't really get back much into the team. I didn't really play a lot, so I decided by that time I always had more interests in other things. So I just decided to stop playing. I was quite young still at the time. I could probably keep going, but I think I got to a stage where I wasn't enjoying it so much because situation changed. And by that time, I'd say the managers were much more of an influence than they were when I started off. So it was more about, there was more sort of control of the tactics and things like that. And to a certain extent, a wee bit of enjoyment had been out of it.
Yeah.
But if you start off in that system, it wouldn't be a problem. When you've been used to other systems, I mean, when I moved to Nairn, it was quite funny. It was Eric Geddes who was the trainer, and he sort of was looking after team events. But his talks were more general, up and at them, motivating rather than strategic, if you like. Or
Yeah.
And so I remember one game we went out to play Rothes, and generally kick off 3 o'clock. We got there maybe 2 o'clock. Generally, you were asked in about 2:15, told the team, everyone got changed in, and we talked about going out. So we're all sitting about, all in there. I remember out in the pitch and looking round. 2:15 came, 25 past 2, 2:30, nothing happening. So we better go and see what's happening. So we went in. Everything seemed to be disorganised for some reason. We didn't. They told us what the team was, but nobody talked to us about it, or said how the team's got to play, or they had the numbers, but not the where's everyone going to play. So we walked onto the pitch, and I remember one of the players, Billy Smith, who he played for Clyde, I think, and he was one of the players from Aberdeen who were there. And he was saying, "Well, what do I?" And we just chucked it there. You play here, I'll play here. We'll play this way, play that way. So we decided just to play as we wanted. We ended up winning about 10-0 or something. But at that stage, it wasn't that there was less tying people down to positions and tactics and views. So when I came back, it maybe changed a little, and maybe being used to playing more informal games where people are there for enjoyment. It isn't quite the same enjoyment then.
Yeah. So in terms of your grand and your uncle, you said that you didn't really did you see much games, or you're saying you saw more games of them near the end of their careers?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't see my granddad because he died when he was 39. So it was only things like medals and maybe a little bits, snippets, pieces. Andy Mitchell was, I think, talking to the people who knew him, like Alec Young, who played at Nairn County, who had speed. They were very impressed by his play, and I think he still holds the record. He scored 10 goals, I think, in a game. He holds the scoring record. And he was quite a small player, and I think he got a lot of abuse from. I mean, centre halves. I don't think players they had the protection then that centre forwards don't have the protection. Have much more protection now than they had then.
Yeah.
So I think he got quite a lot of injuries, but he was quite a wee bloke. But he was he kept describing how he just seemed to confuse centre half a lot of the time, and he would probably have gone on to play. He would have been, I think, probably a Scottish player. Had the system been like now, where there's more opportunities of moving forward. But I think the thing is too that it takes a lot to move away to places, and the Central Belt. If you're down there, you're not moving very far. You don't have to move away to home to play a team and to get a whole range of teams. If you're Inverness, you've only at that age you only had that stage rather. You only had Aberdeen. So there wasn't the range, and he probably would have been the type of player who have moved on, given what I've read of him. But he did. I think it would have been. Obviously, it was. He also died young because in our family have high cholesterol level. And that was the cause of his illnesses, I think. So he would have been, I think, very interested in helping me out. I think more than I would have got more advice from him. I think had he survived, and it was. But I didn't really. I saw him playing a few times, and I saw him playing at Thistle one time, and I did see him playing. He went to play Highland League, but he was. He didn't have the pace, but you could see how he could play. But reading the reports and all the talk when he died, they had a big event at Cali Thistle to raise money for him, and Celtic played in that game. So I came along to the dinner and things, but I was involved there. But unfortunately, I didn't really see him playing very much. I just thought just the age differences were too great, I suppose.
Yeah, but it must be kind of good to have these sort of memories to kind of look back on,
Well, I think
in terms of the medals, or in terms of speaking to other people who knew of it and stuff like that.
Yeah, if you talk to anyone who knew football at that stage, they were saying how good he was. I suppose Dave Johnson, who was at the Nairn, moved before he moved to Aberdeen and things. He would have been similar. I think he would have been, if he could have stayed at Nairn and played in a game. Then he would have been into that level of football much earlier than he was. So, but no, the thing. I mean, it's a tradition in our family, sport as a whole. But just having the three levels, the three generations of medals is quite nice to have. So we've got two grandsons now, I suppose. So we'll probably pass them on to him.
Are they football fans?
They just started. They're young. One's 4 and one's 6. Well, coming up for 6. So I don't know. They're going along to football classes. But I'm not sure how they'll do. My son Graham, he was reasonable, but he just didn't. He wasn't really into that. He's more into golf, and he was swimming and things. But he could play okay, but he just didn't. One of one of the ones that he liked. I just was brought up with football. And
Yeah.
I just, I remember when we moved to Inverness, I stayed with my grandmother, and she had a house with there was a little alleyway in it, and I used to play with football there all the day, running along, imagining scoring goals and stuff.
Brilliant.
But I've always played it.
Yeah, so final few questions. So who would you say were the best players you played with and played against, would you say?
Well, I think the players who play like there was Andy Juppy, who's a centre half and Harry McFadden, who played for Nairn right back, very good players. Kenny McKenzie, the goalkeeper, he was quite wee, but he was a really good player. Very good saving shots, but because of his height, cross balls. Richard Contact was a very good keeper as well. When I played at Nairn, the last time I went back, Brian Gunn just started playing for that time. Ian Gibson, who went on to play for Aberdeen, was a very good player. He's a sort of player who needed a system to play around him, and he was very good in the ball, so he didn't go as far as I think as he should have.
Yeah.
Playing against, I played with Charlie Kennedy. I don't know if you know that name. He played for Nairn, but he was a shinty player, and he seemed to have twice the number of elbows that anyone else had. Whenever you played football against him, you up with take it a bit easy. But he was good, but he's not very good to play against. Good to play for. Against, I always find that probably the Elgin team with Lottie and I'm trying to think the left winger who played for Elgin. But the Elgin team as a whole were difficult to play against, because within the McDonald, they're always very organised, they're always very professional, they all had good players in all positions, so they were hard to play against. But there was a lot of good players, and some players like, say, Stan Brown, who played for Nairn, very good in the ball. Unfortunately, he just didn't quite have a pace because he had the head, he knew how to play. So there's a lot of good players I played with but playing against people, I didn't find anyone. I always find it hard to play against pace. If somebody was really fast, that's the one that I would find. Yes. Other than that, people like Louis Duncan, who played for Elgin, they were good players, and but in the whole, I think the teams that stood out, Ross County, it was down to the organisation. I think it made it difficult to play against rather than the individual players. But Andy Juppy had a very good centre half. I like playing with him. Very experienced, very calm. He used to get very wound up before games, but he'd always give 100%.
Thanks for listening to this interview. You can click subscribe to the podcast on Podbean, Apple, Spotify, or any other podcasting platform that you use. Also, we're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. Hope you can join me next time for another interesting interview.